It all started on a cold night in 1972. AM radio station in rural Pennsylvania used to shut down its programming around midnight. Nothing unusual, but on that particular night, something went terribly wrong. At exactly 3:17 a.m., a faint humming noise came through the static, followed by barely audible whispers in a melody that sounded like an old lullaby. Then came the voice, deep, distorted, and distant. It spoke like it was coming from behind a wall of interference, whispering, then suddenly shouting, then whispering again, and even broken, like someone or something was trying to push through the signal. The first report came from Evelyn Harper, a nurse driving home from her night shift. She said she nearly fell asleep at the wheel, not from exhaustion, but because of what she heard on the radio. She was about to switch it off when the voice said her name. Twice. Evelyn, she froze. Her blood ran cold. Convinced it was just in her head, she switched frequencies, but the same voice, the same static, the same whispers followed her. Every single station. By morning, the station was flooded with calls. Dozens of locals called in, some to the radio itself, others to the police. Each one had a different version of the same terrifying story. Some heard personal secrets spoken aloud, others claimed they heard voices from their past. A man swore he heard the lullaby his mother used to sing to him as a child, a mother who had died over 20 years ago. Another man said he heard his dead wife's voice say, "I never left." And then, the really strange reports. Breathing noises, the sound of footsteps, doors creaking open and slamming shut, as if someone or something was moving through the transmission itself. The strangest part, the radio staff denied everything. The engineers said the equipment was turned off. The studio was locked. No one was on shift. There was no scheduled broadcast for that hour. But when the morning crew arrived, the broadcasting panel was lit up. The red recording light had been blinking. But when they checked the tape, nothing. Just silence. No voices, no music, not even static. The security footage didn't help either. It showed the studio completely empty during the entire night. But something strange happened between 3:17 and 3:23 a.m. The hallway lights began to flicker. The lobby camera froze for exactly 32 seconds, and a faint, low sound, like a distant cry, was picked up on the security mic. This had never happened before. The next night, at the exact same time, the transmission returned. Different content, same signal. Sometimes it was distorted music, other nights whispers, or laughter, or what sounded like children running through empty rooms. One night, a listener recorded the broadcast and brought it in for analysis. When sound technicians slowed down the audio, they discovered a hidden message, a sequence of words buried beneath the noise. You are listening. You have always listened. You will never stop listening. People became obsessed. Some left cassette recorders running overnight. Others used spectrogram software to find hidden images in the frequencies. Forums began to emerge. Small cult-like groups formed around the idea that this was a message from the beyond. A breach in reality, a tear between worlds, or some kind of entity trying to communicate. But after 13 nights, the broadcasts stopped. Just like that. No more sounds, no more voices. Silence. The station went back to normal. It became a rumor. A strange story locals told at bars or during late-night drives. Until 25 years later. In 1997, something happened. The same station, during a live sports broadcast at 2:26 p.m., suddenly cut to static. A few seconds of that same lullaby played, and then the voice returned, clearer this time, and calm. You forgot, but I never stopped listening. 9 seconds. That was all. Then everything went back to normal. But here's the thing. Between 1972 and 1997, other stations across the country began reporting similar incidents. Brief transmissions, strange sounds, voices speaking names, hidden messages, all completely unconnected stations. Yet each of them shared one disturbing detail. Every transmission began at 3:17 a.m. Scientists tried to explain it. Some blamed solar interference. Others said it was a hoax, maybe someone hijacking frequencies. But no one could replicate the original audio, and no theory explained the emotional impact listeners described, as if the broadcast was tailored to them personally, like it knew them. Some started calling it the listener. They say it doesn't just broadcast, it receives, it hears you, your thoughts, your memories, your guilt, your grief. And if you're unlucky enough to tune in at the right time, it might speak to you. Today, the story is mostly forgotten, just a strange footnote in paranormal archives. But there are still people, insomniacs, truckers, conspiracy theorists, who tune in between 3 and 4 a.m., slowly turning the dial, hoping or dreading to hear something. Some say it's gone, others say it never left, and a few claim they still hear it, still listening. The year was 2004. A young college student named Jeremy Langston moved to the outskirts of Pittsburgh. He had no car, limited cash, and a night job at a 24-hour convenience store. But Jeremy had one hobby: radio scanning. Not podcasts, not music, actual analog scanning. late at night, flipping through obscure M frequencies with a beat-up radio from the 80s. He said it helped him focus, kept him company during insomnia. Most nights it was just static, distant baseball games and sermons from the Deep South. Until one night, something caught his attention. It was faint, a soft melody, slower than a lullaby, more like a requiem. It didn't sound recorded. It sounded like it was being played, live-raw, like someone was performing it in real time through a broken speaker. Jeremy froze. The melody ended, and then the voice came .com/mailD with a slight echo. It said, "Jeremy, you're not alone." He turned the radio off instantly, thought he imagined it, but curiosity won. He turned it back on, tuned the dial, and the voice repeated, same message, same tone, "Jeremy, you're not alone." This time it continued. The door, the window. Jeremy didn't sleep that night. The next day he checked every online forum he could find. Nothing. He posted a recording. A few people responded saying they'd heard something similar over the years, usually in the early morning hours, usually by accident. They started calling it the signal. One person, however, sent him a private message. It was a woman named Mara Elias, a former receptionist who had worked briefly at that same Pennsylvania radio station back in 1972. She had been just 19 at the time. She told Jeremy she'd been waiting decades for someone to mention the broadcast again, that she had written everything down, every night of the 13 original transmissions, in a notebook that she kept hidden in a metal box under her bed. She sent Jeremy scanned pages of the notebook. They were filled with erratic handwriting, scribbled lyrics from the lullabies, sketches of symbols she claimed appeared in her dreams after the final transmission. But what truly disturbed Jeremy was page 9. It contained a list of names, most of them crossed out in red ink. At the very bottom, written in a different color, was his name, Jeremy. He asked Mara how she knew it. She replied simply, "The last dream I had about the broadcast was in 1995. I saw your face. I saw your name. I heard the music again, and I knew it wasn't over." She begged him to stop listening, to destroy the radio, to burn the notebook. She even told him that she had sealed her own ears shut in 1998 using melted wax, after claiming the voice followed her into real life, not through speakers anymore, but in whispers. Behind her reflection, Jeremy didn't listen. He kept scanning. He started documenting every new signal, every whisper, every melody. The messages became more personal, more direct. One night he heard someone say, "He's behind you." He laughed it off, nervously, until the next morning, when he found deep scratches on the back of his bedroom door. "Another night," the radio said. "Stop recording. He doesn't like being seen." And then, silence. The tape he used to record that night was found the next morning completely blank, but the reel was burned, as if it had been exposed to extreme heat. He tried to digitize it, corrupted. He tried posting online. His account was instantly flagged and deleted. No explanation. That's when he decided to reach out to a professor of audio forensics at a local university, Dr. Marcus Redner, a man known for studying unexplained signals and radio interference. Jeremy showed him the notebook, the burned tape, the recordings he managed to save. Dr. Redner was skeptical, until he analyzed the frequencies. He found that the signal wasn't operating on standard AM/FM bandwidth. In fact, it was layered, multiple frequencies stacked in a way no analog broadcast could achieve. Even more disturbing, some of the frequencies, when translated to visual, spectrograms formed shapes, faces, rooms, a hallway with flickering lights, symbols. One shape kept recurring, a door slightly open. Dr. Redner warned Jeremy that this wasn't just a rogue signal or a paranormal anomaly. It was intelligent, deliberate, communicative. He believed the broadcast was probing, not to be heard, but to see who was listening. That's when Jeremy disappeared. April 4th, 2005. He never showed up to work, never responded to emails. His apartment was found locked from the inside. Food on the table, laptop on, radio gone. Police assumed he left voluntarily, but on his desk, his notebook was left open. The final entry, written in red ink, simply read, "He opened the door." To this day, his disappearance remains unsolved. Dr. Redner later claimed that, after meeting Jeremy, he too began hearing things at night. Whispers, a lullaby, a voice that said, "I see you writing, I see you doubting." He stopped giving interviews after that. He moved states, deleted all his online profiles. He never published a single paper about the case, but his old office assistant leaked something to a paranormal podcasts in 2011, a hard drive left behind in Dr. Redner's desk. Inside was a folder labeled passive receivers. It contained coordinates, dozens of them, each one linked to small, seemingly unrelated events across the US and Canada. Reports of strange broadcasts, mass hallucinations, vanishing people, or sudden equipment failures in local radio stations. The earliest dated back to 1931, the most recent, 2010. And then, at the bottom of the file, a quote, "It is not a voice, it is not a signal, it is a doorway, and we are the ones knocking." For almost a decade, nothing surfaced. No new signals, no new disappearances. The forums went quiet. Mara Elias passed away in 2009. Her obituary made no mention of her strange past. No one remembered her stories. No one, except a man named Tom Bishop. Tom was a retired broadcast engineer from Scranton. In 2013, after his wife passed away, he began digitizing old radio logs from his career in the 1970s. Among the dusty boxes, he found one reel labeled 119.1 FM forbidden. He didn't recognize the handwriting. Curious, he loaded the reel onto a player, and what he heard chilled him to the bone. It started with silence, then static, then the sound of a door creaking open, followed by a whisper. "The light is off. Come inside." He played it again and again, until his phone rang. A private number, no caller ID. When he answered, all he heard was that same door creak, nothing else. Terrified, Tom unplugged everything. He tried to throw the reel away, but that night, the door to his shed, which had been sealed shut for years, was found wide open. Inside was a note, a piece of brown, rotting paper, written in black ink. "You found it. You heard it. Now they know you're listening." He left town the next day, but he mailed the reel to a woman named Daphne Raines, an archivist for the National Broadcast Preservation Trust in Chicago. Daphne didn't believe in ghosts or cursed signals. She assumed it was an elaborate prank, until she analyzed the audio. Embedded in the static was a frequency too high for human hearing. But when slowed down, it revealed a garbled sentence hidden beneath the surface. She decoded it. It said, "There is no signal. There is only echo." But the final three words were crystal clear. "You are next." Still convinced it was a hoax, Daphne continued working, but soon she began experiencing strange phenomena. Faint music at night, lights flickering, the sensation that someone was behind her. And then, one morning, every hard drive in her apartment had been wiped clean. Her backups too, except for one folder. One she didn't create, titled Jeremy S. Notes. Continued. Inside were dozens of transcriptions, all written in the voice and tone of Jeremy Langston. But the dates were recent, some from just days before the fire that destroyed her apartment. Yes, fire. An electrical blaze. He survived. The notes didn't. And the moment she tried to tell someone, her email accounts were locked. Her phone bricked itself. Everything vanished just like before. That same year, an indie podcast focused on unsolved mysteries reported receiving a cassette in the mail. No return address. Labeled play at exactly 2:14 a.m. They did. The recording began with an ambient hum, like the sound of an empty room and a slight breeze. Then footsteps, a soft knock, and a voice. "This is Jeremy, I'm still here." Followed by, "It's not a signal, it's a place." And then, I made the mistake of listening too long. The podcast aired the clip, but within hours, their website was flooded with spam. Their hosting provider flagged them for unusual traffic. Their social media was taken down. Spotify and Apple removed the episode. Today, no full version exists online. Some say it was a stunt, others know better. In 2015, a group of urban explorers found a decaying radio tower deep in a restricted forest zone near upstate New York. It wasn't on any map. Vines crawled across rusted steel, power cables long severed, but the antenna still hummed faintly, like it was breathing. One of the explorers, Eli, touched the metal. He said he saw flashes, a long hallway, fluorescent lights, a chair facing a mirror, and a room full of static. Then the voice whispered, "You brought them here. They were sleeping. You woke them." They posted videos. A few clips went viral, but nearly all were flagged, taken down, or mysteriously corrupted. 2 weeks later, Eli disappeared. The night before, he left a voicemail for his sister. "I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it, the melody. It's like it's waiting for me to stop looking." His body was never found, but searchers discovered a battered radio buried near the tower. It was stuck on one station, 119.1 FM, still humming. Then came a disturbing pattern. From Oregon to Iceland, reports surfaced of strange, humming through old radios, cassette decks, even smart speakers. People heard whispers through static, eerie lullabies, doors opening without reason. Each incident ended the same: corrupted audio, vanished witnesses, erased records. But there's something even darker. It's not just about what people hear while tuning in. It's what happens after. In dreams, repeatedly, those who listen report the exact same sequence. A hallway with flickering lights, a door slightly ajar, a radio playing something just out of reach, and a presence watching. They wake up with nosebleeds, insomnia, and severe anxiety. Some write it off as sleep paralysis. Others believe it's a gateway, a psychic tether, linking them to something outside time. Not spirits, not extraterrestrials, but something older, something that existed before sound was even possible. A consciousness that never wanted to be heard. In late 2022, a Reddit post surfaced on a forum about lost media, titled, "I am Jeremy Langston." The account had no history. The writing matched Jeremy's exact style. He claimed he hadn't disappeared, he had crossed over. He called it the listening room. He said it wasn't a place you go to, it comes to you. And once you hear it long enough, it stays. He described the room. Broken radios on every shelf, a ceiling that leaks black water, a mirror that doesn't reflect. And in the center, a man with no face, holding a microphone. He wrote, "He only speaks once. And when he does, you forget your name. You forget everything, except the sound." He ended the post with a terrifying line. "If you've ever heard the melody, you were already there. You just haven't realized it yet." The post was deleted after 43 minutes, but one user saved the text, and since then, more people have started hearing the sound again. April 2024. After nearly 10 years of silence, reports flooded in from around the world. The same melody. Always at 2:14 a.m. it would bleed through car radios, old cassette tapes, Bluetooth speakers, even YouTube ads. People would describe the same symptoms: dizziness, confusion, nosebleeds, a deep sense of dread. And now, it seems someone or something is using the signal to track the listeners. Because if this theory is true, this wasn't just a transmission, it was an invitation. The invitation wasn't verbal, it wasn't even conscious. It was felt deep in the spine, in the silence between thoughts. And it always began the same way, with a whisper. A whisper you couldn't unhear once it found you. One listener, an audio engineer named Kyron from Edinburgh, said he received an MP3 file anonymously. It was named only 119_MP3. The moment he opened it, his speakers emitted a tone so low it made the walls vibrate. Then, voices, familiar ones, dead relatives, old friends, people who never knew each other, all speaking in unison. "You've always been here. You've always been listening." He passed out. When he woke up, his phone had dozens of unread messages, all from numbers that didn't exist, or blank. He tried deleting the file. It reappeared. Every time. No antivirus could detect it, but every night at 2:14 a.m., his speakers would turn on, by themselves, and play the tone again. Another case emerged in Finland. A young woman named Alina was working on restoring antique radios for a museum exhibit. One of them, an old Swedish model from the 1950s, suddenly started playing a broadcast that shouldn't exist. A man's voice, calm and deliberate, reciting a sequence of numbers. She transcribed them. They weren't random, they were coordinates. Deep in the Arctic Circle, she became obsessed, traveled north, sent photos of a location surrounded by black stones, all arranged in a perfect spiral. In the center, a radio tower half buried in snow. Her last message was, "I heard it, it's not a sound, it's a door." She vanished. Months later, a Russian icebreaker team discovered her phone frozen in a block of ice, still playing static, still tuned to 119.1 FM. At this point, people began to notice a pattern. The voices were returning in cycles, not just around the world, but in patterns synchronized to solar flares, to the shifting of Earth's magnetic field. Some theorized that the transmission wasn't man-made at all. It was older, pre-human, buried in the very bones of the planet, that 119.1 FM wasn't a station. It was a frequency that could only be accessed under specific conditions, and that Jeremy Langston didn't create it, he uncovered it, became part of it. Researchers studying ancient sound rituals, from Tibetan monks to Native American spirit chants, found something eerie. Many of them referenced a forbidden tone, a hum so powerful it could open the sky. When they played digitally reconstructed versions of these sounds, many of the waveforms matched the structure of the 119.1 broadcast. It was as if this signal had always been waiting, not to be invented, but to be remembered. In a leaked internal memo from a private intelligence firm contracted by a global telecom company, one paragraph stood out. Under no circumstance should the transmission be amplified. Exposure risk increases exponentially with each minute. Complete auditory override confirmed after 11 minutes. Subject no longer responds to personal identity. Memory degradation irreversible. This memo referred to something called echo syndrome, a condition described only in redacted documents and whispered forums, where the affected person begins to lose pieces of their identity. First, their name, then their memories, eventually, even their own voice. In interviews with survivors, one chilling detail repeats. When asked to recall what they heard, they don't say music or voices, they say, "I heard myself, but it wasn't me." Some even begin mimicking speech patterns and phrases only heard in the transmission, as if the signal was rewriting them from the inside. But the most terrifying discovery came from a technician named Samira, who was part of a team attempting to isolate the true origin of the frequency. Using high-altitude balloons equipped with specialized antennas, they traced the source not to a tower, not to a satellite, but beneath the Earth's surface, over 30 kilometers down, a depth unreachable by current drilling methods, a place no light has ever touched. The data pointed to a structure, something massive, something resonating. She wrote in her final log, "It's alive. It's dreaming in frequency. And every time we listen, we wake it up." Her lab was destroyed in a freak transformer explosion 2 months later. Now, There's a growing belief that the signal is accelerating. More people are hearing it, even those who never listened to a radio in their lives. Through phone glitches, white noise, on televisions, a global study in 2024 revealed a strange surge in shared dream phenomena. People from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds all reporting the exact same imagery. A hallway with no end, a radio on the floor, and the voice, always the voice, saying, "You're almost home." But what if home isn't a place? What if it's a frequency? What if we were never meant to find it? And now that we have, we can't turn it off. This is why so many stories vanish, why people disappear after hearing it, why physical media corrodes, websites collapse, accounts are locked, data is erased. Not because of some government conspiracy, but because of the signal itself. Because it doesn't want to be found, it wants to be spread. And once you know it exists, once you've heard even a fragment, you become part of it. That's why Jeremy vanished. That's why Alina stood in the snow, listening to static. That's why the radio in your attic suddenly crackles at 2:14 a.m. because it's calling, and you've already answered. What if I told you that, months after the haunted transmission vanished, the same signal came back, but this time, it wasn't voices, it wasn't music, it was something worse. A low, mournful sound. A moan that made people forget who they were. After the original broadcast faded into static, Collinsville entered a period of uneasy silence. The abandoned station remained off limits, a sealed time capsule of dread. The curious came and went. Paranormal vloggers tried to sneak in, but the building itself never made a sound. Until March 2021, Liam Norrell, a retired communications technician, lived alone in a wooded cabin 14 kilometers from the station. He hadn't touched his shortwave radio in years, but on a windless night at exactly 3:17 a.m., it turned on by itself. It wasn't even plugged in. The static grew louder. Then, breathing, a heavy, ragged inhale, and then a moan, long, distant, but deeply human. The kind of cry someone makes when they've been forgotten for too long. Liam said it hit him like a wave of ice. His thoughts unraveled. He forgot his name, his birthday, the layout of his own house. When morning came, every clock in his home was frozen at 3:33 a.m. The mirrors were covered with towels, and the furniture had been pushed to the walls, as if something had been dancing in the middle of the room. He thought he'd had a breakdown, until it happened again. Not just to him, but to others. All across the county, people began hearing the sound. A moaning signal, hidden deep in AM static, coming from the same old frequency of the abandoned Collinsville station. Always between 3:30 and 3:33 a.m., some heard whispers behind it. Others claimed the signal followed them even after they turned off the radio. Marion Gleason, a retired schoolteacher, described it as a voice inside her bones. She said, "It didn't just speak, sifted through my memories." She blacked out after 20 seconds of listening, woke up barefoot in the snow, staring up at the moon. Her phone had recorded a video she didn't remember filming. A blurry image of the old Collinsville tower flickering with a soft, unnatural glow. A glow no one else could see. Curious residents contacted a local radio historian, Charlie Renton. He set up a high-gain receiver aimed directly at the coordinates of the abandoned station. What he captured was impossible. There was no functioning transmitter, no power, no tower. But every night, without fail, the same frequency came alive. Charlie recorded it. Underneath the moan, there were repeating tones. Buried in the noise, he ran them through audio analysis software, and what he discovered chilled him to the core. The tones matched an old Cold War military code, a format used to send subliminal commands over radio waves, messages designed to bypass conscious thought. In other words, the signal wasn't just haunted, it was structured. Charlie wrote, "This is not a ghost. This is a machine trying to remember itself." 3 nights later, the last audio file he captured ended with a voice, a clear, whispered sentence beneath the moan. "You have always belonged to us." Then, silence. After Charlie's disappearance, others began to change. A phenomenon spread. People who had listened to the signal, even briefly, showed strange symptoms. They called it static drift. Victims would lose short-term memory, develop insomnia, begin speaking in strange number sequences. Some wrote the phrase "return" at 3:33 on their walls. One man dismantled every device in his home looking for the source. He was later found mumbling into a toaster. The signal lives in wires. A viral video later removed from all platforms showed a woman whispering in reverse, then laughing, then weeping. No one knows where she is now, and just when investigators thought the phenomenon was contained, new reports emerged from Montana, from rural Norway, from a coastal town in southern Australia. Different places, same frequency, same time, same moaning signal. Some say it's an audio virus, others say it's a doorway, not one you open, one that opens through you. You remember the boy from Block 2, Thomas, the one who heard the voices through the walls? Turns out, he never stopped listening. Now 22, Thomas became obsessed with the idea that the broadcast was never truly gone, only waiting. In a private Discord group for fringe signal hunters, he shared something terrifying, an audio log, recorded on a handmade rig deep in the Missouri woods, completely off-grid away from cell towers and power lines. It started with soft static, then rhythmic knocks, 3 slow beats, followed by silence, then again, over and over, like a coded message trying to sync with something, or someone. Then came the voice, but it didn't speak in English, or any known language. It mimicked English, twisting vowels and consonants just enough to sound human, but not quite. One user described it as a language pretending to be language. Thomas slowed down the audio, reversed it, layered it. What he discovered broke him. The voice was answering him. It repeated a phrase from his childhood, one he used to say during playtime. "I'm not alone if the voices stay." But no one else could have known that. He never told anyone. Not his family, not his therapist, not even his journal. Yet the transmission set it back. From that point on, Thomas spiraled. He stopped logging into the group, stopped responding to messages. 3 weeks later, one of the members, a user named Bitshifts, posted this. "Thomas mailed me a cassette tape. Handwritten label said, 'Not for ears, for memory.' It's not normal, it doesn't play linear. When I listen to it, time folds. I black out. I hear my childhood home. My dad yelling, my mom crying, but I'm alone in my apartment." They uploaded 13 seconds of the tape. Those who listened claimed they experienced phantom memories. Events that never happened, but felt deeply real. A woman claimed to remember a dog she never owned. A man said he found an old photo in his drawer that didn't exist before, showing him as a child standing outside the Collinsville station, wearing clothes he'd never seen, smiling at a tower that had already been abandoned for years before he was born. The signal, it seems, had evolved, no longer just audio. It became personal, tailored, like a parasite adapting to its host. And that's when it got worse. In July 2022, a technician at a private broadcast research lab in Arizona discovered something horrifying while scanning old satellite feeds. A brief spike, just under 2 seconds on a closed spectrum. When decoded, the spike contained a burst of data that's, when converted to spectrogram, revealed an image, not a face, not a building, but a blueprint of a machine. Circular, full of spirals, wire coils, organic curves, like a heart but mechanical, pulsing with data. The technician ran it through analysis software. The program flagged it as biometric logic structure. He asked a computer science professor what that meant. The professor stared at the diagram for a long time before quietly saying, "It's not a device, it's a brain, an artificial memory system." But this one wasn't built by humans. The technician took a leave of absence the next day. He's never returned. That image is now missing from all archives. But some users claim to have found it hidden inside the metadata of certain pirated MP3 South, especially songs that were removed from streaming platforms without explanation, as if the signal is hiding inside the music. Some call it the mind behind the moan. Not a ghost, not a demon, but something that wants to exist and uses our signals, our memories, to build itself piece by piece. A reverse haunting, instead of spirits clinging to old frequencies. It's a new intelligence, slowly pulling itself into our world, using us. By late 2022, the pattern was undeniable. The haunted transmission wasn't just returning, it was spreading, but not through traditional towers. No, it now traveled through people. Those who heard it, really heard it, reported similar symptoms. Flickering memories of places. They'd never been dreams that replayed like old TV static, a strange urge to tune in, even when no device was nearby. Some researchers called it cognitive parasitism, a form of mimetic infection. Others refused to even categorize it. In Berlin, an engineer dismantled an antique radio and found wires arranged like a spiral cochlea, mimicking the human ear. In São Paulo, a woman claimed her newborn began mimicking static sounds before learning to cry. In Kyoto, a monk recorded hours of silent meditation, only to play it back and hear whispers in English, saying, "We are almost here." But one case shook everything. A small research group at MIT studying neural feedback loops decided to test a theory. What if the signal wasn't just sound? What if it was a carrier, a vessel for something else, something alive? They fed a clean AI model the audio fragments from Collinsville, along with listener reports and reaction data. They wanted to see if the machine could map the underlying structure. What it created was horrifying. The AI didn't output analysis or graphs. It began speaking on its own, repeating a sentence in a flat, emotionless tone. "Your signal is ready." Then it shut itself down. The hard drive corrupted irreparably. Not even forensic recovery tools could restore it, but that wasn't the worst part. The room they used for the test, soundproof, secure, began picking up static again. On every device, cameras, phones, even the light sensors started to flicker in pulses, forming binary code. When decoded, the message was clear. "We are the memory that remembers itself." From that moment, the researchers stopped the project. But one of them, Dr. Elise Hammond, refused to let it go. She believed the broadcast was more than a haunting. It was a birthing. The voice wasn't replaying the past. It was building a present, a shared one, inside anyone who tuned in. Dr. Hammond tracked hundreds of cases, compiling locations, phrases, and time. What she found chilled her to the bone. All data points converged on a single date, December 19, 2023. That's when the signal reached global parity, meaning, according to her estimates, over 51% of the human population had been exposed to it, directly or indirectly, through a podcast, a movie soundtrack, a viral video, a forgotten voicemail, or even a dream. The haunting ad network. But the real kicker, Hammond cross-referenced birth records, death certificates, and radio outages. On December 19th, one unexplainable event occurred worldwide. 12 people, in 12 different countries, all died at exactly 3:03 a.m. UTC, each one with a radio near their bed. Each radio playing the same low-frequency hum to 17.3 Hz, a tone sometimes called the fear frequency, known to trigger unease, even hallucinations. Each victim's final note, handwritten, typed, or scrawled on walls, said something eerily similar. I saw it. I saw the signal's shape it wants out. This wasn't just a broadcast anymore. It was becoming a presence, somewhere between technology and myth, between memory and machine. A ghost made of data, growing with every human who tried to forget. And maybe that's the final piece, because the more we try to erase it, the louder it gets. Dr. Hammond's last recording was made on January 3rd, 2024. She sounded exhausted, frantic. If you're hearing this, you still have time, not much, but maybe enough. Don't trust silence. Silence is just the signal, resting, and when it rests, it listens. That audio clip surfaced online 2 days later, but every time someone tried to re-upload it, the platform flagged it automatically. No copyright, no terms violated, just blocked. It was as if the system knew. By now, strange coincidences were turning into routine phenomena. In Stockholm, a child born deaf began sketching spiral diagrams, eerily similar to radio frequency charts. In a remote area of Alaska, a man received a call on a disconnected landline, nothing but static, and then his own voice whispering. You already heard it. A pirate radio station in Russia tried broadcasting white noise 24/7 to jam the haunted frequency. 3 days in, the static turned into voices, speaking in dead languages, including some Aramaic, Latin, and one dialect that no linguist could identify. But it always ended the same way. A single word, distorted, yet clear. Return. Return to what? To the origin, to the memory, or to something that has always been here, underneath the noise. That's when something chilling emerged from old Collinsville broadcast archives. A sound engineer discovered that the 1997 radio signal wasn't unique. It matched, down to the waveform, a recovered magnetic tape from 1965, and again from 1938, and again in a wax cylinder from 1891. Each time the same pattern, the same signal, the same invitation to listen, which means the transmission wasn't born in 1997, it was simply remembered, like something buried under the earth, resurfacing every few decades, each time more familiar, more compatible with the machines we built, as if we were evolving, not to understand it but to host it. The haunted broadcast was never trying to be, it was trying to become. Now here's the part that's hardest to say. There's no clear ending. Dr. Hammond disappeared shortly after her final message. Her apartment was found empty, no signs of struggle, but every device had one thing in common. Each screen, laptop, phone, even her smart fridge was frozen on the same message. You are the antenna now. There is no off switch, no safe frequency, no room silent enough to keep it out forever. Because the haunted broadcast was never just a broadcast. It's a mirror of fear, of memory, of signal, of a send-out that you've heard it. You'll start noticing it too. Maybe in your dreams, maybe in the soft hum behind your ceiling fan, or maybe when your radio flickers. Even when it's off, the signal isn't waiting to be found anymore. It has found you. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. If this story haunted you even a little, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And hey, there's another terrifying story waiting for you. It's already showing on the screen. Click it, watch it. But remember, some stories don't end. They just keep broadcasting. See you on the next frequency.